The story begins at a school in Germany, where the police are investigating a very strange incident. Outside the building, there is a table covered in blood, and the most disturbing thing is that it appears to have been thrown from the first floor, since there is a huge hole in the wall. Everything suggests that someone hurled it with unnatural strength. At that moment, a mysterious woman appears. When she enters the school, she finds a girl named Wendy hiding in the gym, wearing her Discman and headphones, completely cut off from the world. The woman introduces herself as Dr. Stern, a psychiatrist who works for the government, and assures the girl that she will take her to a safe place. Years later, Wendy is now an adult. She works as a waitress, takes her medication every morning, and lives an apparently normal life with her husband Lars, a security guard, and their young son, Carl. Although they are a close and happy family, they are going through serious financial problems. One day, they receive a letter from the mortgage company with an eviction notice, making it clear that the situation is critical. Determined to improve things, Wendy believes her only option is to ask for a raise at the restaurant where she has worked for 3 years. After having breakfast, she says goodbye to her husband and son and heads out for another day at work. When her shift ends, she goes to talk to her boss and asks for a promotion. However, her boss refuses, saying that Wendy still lacks character, strength, and confidence to deserve it. Even so, she gives her an opportunity by assigning her more tasks, including taking out the trash. Although she feels humiliated, Wendy accepts. While taking the trash to the dumpster, she meets a homeless man who asks her for some food. Without her boss noticing, she gives him a little. In return, the man tells her something very strange, that she is one of the freaks. Wendy does not understand what he means, but she ignores it and continues with her work. At the end of the day, Wendy heads back home. On the way, she passes a group of men drinking in a parking lot. One of them invites her to join them, but she simply turns up the volume of her music and keeps walking. Shortly afterward, as she crosses a bridge, a man runs toward her. Thinking it is one of the guys from the parking lot, Wendy defends herself by hitting him with her backpack. Then she realizes it is the homeless man. He introduces himself as Merrick and asks her an unsettling question, whether she is still taking her medication every day. Wendy is left in shock, unable to understand how he could know that detail. Merrick explains that the pills are not meant to help her, but to block her special abilities, and he advises her to stop taking them. Wendy thinks the man is crazy, until he decides to prove that he is telling the truth. Without saying anything else, Merrick jumps off the bridge onto the road below. Wendy panics and runs to see what has happened. To her surprise, Merrick is completely unharmed. However, seconds later, a truck hits him. Terrified, Wendy calls emergency services and runs home, completely shaken by what she has just witnessed. The next morning, still affected, Wendy goes to her session with Dr. Stern. But instead of telling her what happened on the bridge, she decides to hide it and says that she has been having strange dreams in which she sees herself with superhuman abilities. She insists that they are only dreams, but the doctor recommends increasing the dose of her medication to avoid problems. When Wendy returns home, she finds another eviction notice. Her life becomes more and more complicated, with the hope of getting that raise that never comes. On another workday, while taking out the trash, Wendy runs into Merrick again, alive and without a single scratch. He tells her that they are both freaks and that his body is indestructible. Then he asks her to stop taking the medication so she can discover her powers. That night, Wendy makes a decision. Before going to bed, she flushes all her pills down the toilet, determined to find out what will really happen. The next day, Wendy feels unwell at work and, without realizing it, bends a steel tray with her bare hands. When she notices her strength, she quickly hides it and keeps working as if nothing happened. On her way home, she once again runs into the group of men who are always drinking and mocking her. This time, Wendy asks them to leave her alone, but the leader of the group does not take it well and attacks her. Although she ends up on the ground, pinned down, Wendy breaks free effortlessly. When the others join in, she defeats them easily, hurling them away with brutal blows. There is no longer any doubt. Wendy is also one of the freaks. And for the first time in a long while, she feels free and happier than ever. The following morning, she arrives at work with a completely different attitude. She greets the customers enthusiastically and appears far more confident. But that calm does not last long, because Dr. Stern suddenly shows up. She says she was worried because Wendy has not been attending therapy and reminds her how important it is to keep taking her medication to avoid problems. Although Wendy is suspicious, she promises to continue the treatment. As soon as the doctor leaves, Wendy goes back to work, until her boss appears holding the bent steel tray. She is convinced that Wendy is responsible and tells her that the cost of a new tray will be deducted from her paycheck. At that moment, Wendy snaps. She grabs her boss by the shirt, lifts her into the air with one hand, and warns her that if she dares to deduct even a single cent, she will regret it for the rest of her life. Terrified by Wendy's strength, the boss immediately flees to her office. After that, Wendy goes to Merrick's hideout to better understand what is happening to her. He explains that there are many freaks around the world, but that the government created a program to keep them under control by hiding their abilities through medication and psychiatric treatment. Before saying goodbye, Merrick tells her that if she wants real answers, she should investigate the building where the therapy sessions take place. Determined, Wendy goes to the location, but finds it completely closed. While thinking about how to get in without raising suspicion, she remembers Superman and his ability to leap great distances. Without overthinking it, she decides to try. To her surprise, she manages to make an incredible jump and enters through a window on the upper floor. Inside the building, Wendy finds files with records of several patients. Among them, she sees the name Elmar, her co-worker from the restaurant. Suspecting that he is also a freak, Wendy goes to his house and finds him in his room, just as he is about to take his pill. Elmar is shocked to see her there and asks what she is doing in his house. Wendy explains that the pills do not help him, but instead block his powers. Although it sounds crazy at first, Elmar is a fan of comics and superheroes, so he decides to believe her. On top of that, he is dealing with a difficult situation at home. His father and stepmother constantly criticize him for not having achieved anything and for still living with them. If what Wendy says is true, this could be his chance to prove that he is worth something. So he decides to stop taking the medication. As the days go by, Wendy feels stronger and more confident. She even goes to her boss's office to ask for a raise, but before her boss can respond, Wendy cuts her off, thanks her for the promotion, and promises to work as hard as possible. At the end of the day, Wendy meets with Elmar, who confirms that he has stopped taking the pills. To prove it, he grabs a lamp and turns it on using only the power of his mind. Without the medication, Elmar has discovered that his ability is to generate electricity from his own body. That night, the two of them go for a walk and talk about what is happening to them. Little by little, they realize that their powers had already manifested when they were children. However, ever since they started treatment with Dr. Stern, their abilities were blocked, and they completely forgot about them. For Elmar, these powers are not a curse, but a gift. He is convinced that people like them are meant for something greater, like the comic book superheroes he admires so much. Wendy, on the other hand, has no interest in saving the world. She just wants to solve her real problems, especially her financial ones. That is why, when they walk past an ATM, Wendy kicks it without a second thought and easily breaks it open, taking all the money inside to pay off her home mortgage. She then invites Elmar to spend some of the money, and the two of them go out to have fun at a nightclub. In the middle of the night, Wendy notices a group of guys harassing a girl. Without hesitating, she decides to step in and invites them to follow her to a more secluded area. But as soon as they get there, Wendy teaches them an unforgettable lesson, knocking them all out with her super strength. One of them tries to attack her from behind, but Elmar shows up just in time and takes him down with an electric shock. After that, Wendy thanks him, and each of them heads back home. When Wendy arrives home, she finds her husband asleep on the couch. When he wakes up, she hands him the money she got to pay the mortgage. Relieved, the two share an intimate, loving moment together. The next day, Wendy goes to pick up Carl from the playground and finds that her son is being bullied by 3 boys. The leader of the group mocks her when he sees her approaching, but Wendy does not hit him. Instead, she grabs the 3 boys' bicycles and bends them as if they were made of paper. Carl is completely amazed by what he has just witnessed. With their debts paid, Wendy decides to take a break and fills the pool to enjoy some quality time with her family. However, what she does not know is that one of the men she beat up at the nightclub goes to the police to report that he was attacked by a woman with superhuman strength. At first, the officers think it is a joke, but their chief stops them and tells them that the case is already in the hands of a specialist. That specialist is none other than Dr. Stern, who wants to know everything about this mysterious woman. Meanwhile, Wendy takes Elmar to meet Merrick. There, Elmar demonstrates his power by activating all the electrical energy in the hideout. With the 3 of them together, Merrick reveals an even more disturbing truth. There are many more people like them, but they are being held in a place that pretends to be a psychiatric clinic. Upon hearing this, Elmar suggests rescuing them and showing the world the truth about the existence of people with special abilities. Merrick is against the idea, since the place is heavily guarded and, if they are discovered, the government will hunt them down relentlessly. Even so, Wendy supports the plan, convinced that those people deserve a second chance to start over. Seeing that they will not change their minds, Merrick agrees to help them and shows them the way to the clinic. The 3 of them drive to the location. During the trip, Elmar shows off the suit he designed for his superhero identity. He also brings costumes for the others, although Merrick refuses to wear one, and Wendy only puts on a red wig as her disguise. When they arrive at the clinic, Merrick and Elmar stay outside while Wendy goes in to distract the security guard. The man warns her that she cannot enter without authorization, but Wendy uses her charm and manages to get him to accompany her to the bathroom. As soon as she gets the chance, she knocks him out and ties him up with duct tape. With that done, all that remains is to disable the cameras. Elmar takes care of it by firing a powerful electrical surge at the control panel. The security system goes down, and the 3 of them enter to search for the patients. What they do not know is that the guard has woken up. Despite being tied up, he manages to press the alarm button and calls for backup. At that exact moment, Wendy and the others find the patients, but a police officer appears, ordering them to surrender. Wendy shoves a table into the officer, and as he falls, he fires his weapon, the bullet striking Merrick, without causing him any harm. The alarm is now blaring throughout the entire building. Wendy, Elmar, and Merrick try to escape, but they soon realize they are surrounded by several police officers. Suddenly, a heavy rain begins to pour. Elmar takes advantage of the moment and releases a massive electrical discharge that knocks all the police officers unconscious. Thanks to this, the group manages to escape. However, once they are safe, Wendy panics and orders them to stop the car. She fears that the discharge may have eliminated the officers. Furious, Merrick scolds Elmar for using his powers without thinking and warns him that if they continue acting this way, they will end up hurting innocent people, including those they love most. He then reveals something painful. Because of his decisions, his wife and daughter died. After saying this, Merrick leaves, warning them that if they are not careful, they will make the same mistakes he did. Elmar does not seem to care. He remains convinced that his powers serve a greater purpose. Wendy, on the other hand, is deeply shaken and filled with guilt. She decides to step away from everything and return to a normal life with her family. To prove it, she organizes a gathering at her house and invites the neighbors, trying to enjoy a peaceful day. Elmar, meanwhile, has no intention of giving up his abilities and fears that Merrick might try to stop him. Because of this, he makes a dangerous decision. He goes to see Dr. Stern and tells her that he wants to resume therapy and take his treatment more seriously. During their conversation, he mentions that a few days earlier he met a homeless man who advised him to stop taking the medication. Upon hearing this, Dr. Stern immediately becomes interested and asks who this man is. Elmar gives her the location of Merrick's hideout. Hours later, several agents raid the place. Merrick tries to escape, but he is captured and taken to the psychiatric clinic. Unaware of all this, Wendy tries to enjoy the gathering with her family, until Elmar suddenly shows up at her house, dressed in his superhero suit. Shocked, Wendy lets him inside to talk in private and asks him what he is doing there. Elmar tells her that Merrick has been captured and that they will probably be next. Even so, he says he has found a solution: running away together. According to him, with their combined powers, no one would be able to stop them. Wendy flatly refuses. She does not want to hurt anyone or put her family in danger. This response enrages Elmar, who leaves determined to use his powers without anyone holding him back. After that, Lars approaches Wendy and asks who that man was and what he wanted. Unable to keep hiding the truth, Wendy confesses that Elmar is a freak, a person with superhuman abilities. And not only that, she also has powers, but they were hidden for years by the medication prescribed by her psychiatrist. Lars does not believe her and insists that it is all hallucinations caused by stopping her pills. He decides to call Dr. Stern. Wendy tries to stop him, but during the struggle she loses control and throws Lars across the living room, leaving him with an injured arm. The guests are left in shock, especially Carl, who looks at his mother in confusion and asks her what she just did. Realizing the seriousness of what has happened, Wendy runs away. After thinking it over, she decides to go talk to Elmar. When she arrives at his house, she witnesses a heated argument between him and his father. The man says he is tired of his son doing nothing with his life, of only reading comics and having no ambitions. Elmar snaps and replies that since his mother's death, the only thing he ever wanted was his father's support. But instead he received nothing but criticism and demands. He accuses him of never once asking what he truly wanted for his life. For a moment, the father feels guilty and apologizes. The two embrace, but the calm does not last long. Elmar, still full of resentment, knocks his father down with an electrical discharge. At that exact moment, Wendy walks in and is horrified by what Elmar has just done. He does not care. He says that he and Wendy are special and that they must join forces to take control of their destinies and guide others toward a better world. Wendy refuses, convinced that Elmar only wants to dominate everyone. She decides to leave, but Elmar stops her. Without hesitation, he fires an electric blast at her, knocking her unconscious. Hours later, Wendy wakes up in an unfamiliar room, tied to a bed. Standing beside her is Dr. Stern. Desperate, Wendy struggles to free herself, fully aware that everything is part of a plan to keep her under control. Stern, however, assures her that she never wanted to hurt her and that she was only trying to protect her from herself, especially after what happened years earlier. This triggers a memory in Wendy. She sees herself again as a teenager at school, with her mother. They are both in the principal's office after Wendy was reprimanded for wearing headphones in class. The principal explains that everyone must follow the rules and, as punishment, takes away her headphones for a few days. Furious, Wendy loses control and shoves a table with such force that the principal is thrown against the wall. Back in the present, Wendy feels overwhelmed with guilt. Stern tells her that she needs treatment so she does not hurt other people. Convinced that she is a danger to herself and to others, Wendy agrees to stay at the clinic and undergo a stronger treatment. Later, Dr. Stern speaks with Lars and suggests that, for safety reasons, he should also bring their son Carl in for a consultation. As the days pass, Wendy grows more and more subdued under the effects of the medication, but she does not resist and continues to comply. One night, Wendy waits for the nurse to bring her pills, but instead Elmar appears. He hands her a Discman identical to the one she used as a child and asks her to accept who she truly is and set herself free. Wendy refuses and calls for help. Elmar leaves, warning her that sooner or later she will end up going with him. Minutes later, the entire city is plunged into darkness by an electrical surge. At the same time, Lars and Carl are at home when someone knocks on the door. When Lars opens it, they come face to face with Elmar. Lars recognizes him and demands that he leave, even striking him. Elmar pretends to remain calm, says he did not come to hurt anyone, and extends his hand, asking for help to get up. Meanwhile, at the clinic, The blackout disables the security locks and the patients begin escaping from their rooms. Wendy also flees, fearing that her family is in danger. However, Dr. Stern appears with a security guard and orders everyone to return. Wendy refuses, and the guard tries to stop her, but Merrick suddenly appears and knocks him out with a single blow. Dr. Stern then grabs the guard's gun and points it at Wendy, insisting that she only wants to help her. Nervous, she ends up firing. The bullet does not hit Wendy, but Merrick, who steps in front of her to protect her. This time, weakened by the medication, Merrick is no longer invincible and is gravely wounded. Enraged, Wendy knocks Stern to the ground with a punch. But it is already too late. Before dying, Merrick asks Wendy to reveal the truth to the world. Devastated, Wendy runs back home. There, she finds Elmar with Carl, surrounded by a track of electric toy cars. Wendy knows that through that toy, Elmar can electrocute her son. She demands to know what he wants. Elmar once again invites her to join him and use their powers to create the world he desires. Wendy refuses and tries to attack him, but she has not fully regained her abilities yet, and Elmar throws her to the ground with an electrical blast. Wendy falls near the bathroom and sees Lars trapped among electrical cables. Despite the pain, he manages to throw her a pair of anti-static gloves so she can protect herself from the electricity and save Carl. Wendy puts on the gloves, thanks him with a look, and little by little feels her powers returning. With all her strength, she lunges at Elmar and slams into him with a brutal blow. The impact hurls him through the window, and his body crashes into the pool, still charged with energy. Elmar then becomes a victim of his own power. The water triggers a massive electrical discharge that ends his life forever. With the confrontation over, Wendy manages to save her family. However, she knows that nothing will ever be the same again. She explains to Lars and Carl that she will have to leave for a while, because she needs to find other people like her before the government does. They both understand her decision and, although it hurts, they support her. Wendy leaves the house just minutes before the agents arrive and completely surround the area. Days later, Wendy begins a relentless search for other freaks. Her goal is now clear: to free them, help them accept who they are, and reveal to the world the truth that was hidden for years. Alongside her new team, Wendy has no intention of stopping until they are all free and able to use their abilities for something better.